Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to a brand new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What's happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to interact with you. So make sure to swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join the conversation on the social media accounts. They're all right there. You can interact with us. We talk about all the topics we discuss on the show, and even some we don't, right there on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're there. Also, you can check out the TeePublic store, where there's always something going on there. So if you want to really support the show, that is the best way to do it. And you can also support if you want to sign up for the Patreon. One tier, $2 a month, and a lot of bonus content on the way. Also, remember to check out Parlay Points, the music section of the show. You can check out The Classified, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast. You can also check out the directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
111,000.
So there's no reason you can't follow, subscribe, and drop a 5-star review for your favorite podcast here. And it all helps to grow the brand and keep this conversation rolling on social media, because that's what we like to do here, folks. So if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And always remember, on social media, use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off this edition of the show, we finally got an updated version of a movie's trailer that we have been keeping our eyes on.
Mm-hmm.
It was teased a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's been a buzz going on about this movie because we are kicking into the new phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
A buzz. I see what you did there.
See? Well played indeed. And now that we are in 2023, there's a whole new movie slate coming out for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's new shows coming to Disney Plus that everybody's been very, 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 very quiet about, if you noticed. It hasn't been the big pomp and circumstance yet. I feel we're going to get a teaser trailer during the Super Bowl this year like they've done in years past.
Probably.
So we'll probably see something about Secret Invasion get announced then, and then it's going to spiral from there, which, hey, the more content, the better is what I say. There's no such thing as burnout if it's good. But everything is hinging on what is going to be unfolding in movie theaters very, very shortly, because it's coming up in February. And that is Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Mm-hmm.
The third installment. God, that sounds so weird for me to say.
I know. It feels like just yesterday, you and I and a bunch of others were going into the theaters to see the first one.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was getting in for, because I had no idea who the hell he was.
Well, for me, being an old school Marvel Comics fan, the fact I live in a world that successful movie franchise exists, such as Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, make me nerd out just a little too much.
Yeah.
But it's very surreal, like, okay, I'm going to wake up soon and this isn't going to happen. Because Ant-Man has always been a character in the Marvel Comics universe that I don't want to say has been a joke, but has always been one that reflected the times he was created in.
Never a top priority.
Exactly. Not somebody that's a true heavyweight in the Avengers, but yet a founding member. And obviously the course of Hank Pym's character going on through the MCU has been something very interesting. And I mean the comics universe, to say the least.
Yes.
Obviously, this is another interpretation of Ant-Man because it's Ant-Man 2 Scott Lang, played by the one and only Paul Rudd, who has actually won the pop culture audience over with this portrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think if he's not in this, I honestly don't think this movie works.
No, I mean, there are some guys who I think could pull it off, but not as well as Paul Rudd has done.
No, because he has just really made you root for this bumbling ex-con who is trying to do good, but yet is not exactly 100% a superhero. Even though he's trying very hard. He really is. But when he is now joined the Avengers and is really behind some of the biggest moments in the MCU, he's really won people over with his performance. And now there's a real fan base involved with his character. And obviously with the addition of the Wasp, played by Evangeline Lilly, who has done a great job as Hope Van Dyne, this has really been a pairing that has worked well for the cinematic universe. And obviously we have all been waiting to hear what they were going to do for a third movie. The second movie was fun. We can't take anything away from that. if there's any movie franchise in the MCU that really captures that Disney vibe, it's Ant-Man.
I would say Ant-Man 2 also, I would say, had the craziest cliffhanger in MCU history to this point.
Yes, when they were sucked into the quantum realm.
Well, Scott was, and then everybody else fucking disappeared.
Yeah.
Because this took place after Infinity War, so it was post-snap. We had no idea what was going on with him. Just there was a mention that he was under house arrest. And then, everyone's like eagerly anticipating to see what happens. And then you get to the end where he goes in the quantum realm. And then he's like, all right, I got the stuff we're looking for. Guys. And it just cuts back to normal size world or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And everyone's been snapped away. And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. So it definitely kicked off arguably the biggest moment in the MCU history, and that is Avengers Endgame. So now we're heading into Phase 5, and what better franchise to usher that in than the most unlikely hero in the MCU?
Yeah.
And we did get the first teaser trailer, and obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. We do know that Jonathan Majors is now joining the MCU as Kang the Conqueror. We do know that Scott's daughter, Cassie Lang, is going to be grown up now. Well,
she aged up.
Aged up, I should say. And she'll be played by Catherine Newton. So we're going to see a new changing of the guard in the MCU.
Yeah.
But this is going to be the first time we really see Jonathan Majors unleashed as Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
Not a Mortis that we did see at the end of Loki season 1. This is going to be the true one that we've seen in the comics, the ruthless conqueror that goes back in time and really has been more of an Avengers foe than the Fantastic Four, even though he is conflicted with both. And obviously being somebody from the future with futuristic weapons and intellect and knowing basically your move before you're going to do it has always been a difficult challenge, and now has been brought to a greater exclamation point to the pop culture audience that this is going to be a real threat. And Marvel has done a masterful job illustrating that point in this trailer. Now, this past Monday, we had the second trailer get released.
Yeah.
There's a lot more plot points that have been unveiled here. So what we're going to do is a full breakdown of the trailer. Now, if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. We really do appreciate it. We like to give a spoiler-free statement. We don't like to ruin anything for anybody. So if you haven't seen it and you want to be spoiled, we're going to put the liner notes in the podcast show notes to say when you need to duck out. Because once we go into spoiler talk, we give you a countdown. So it's like the final warning. After that countdown, we go live in the deep dives. We don't hold anything back. So you've been fair warned. That being said, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statement on the second trailer of Ant-Man The Wasp, Quantumania.
Trailer was good. Excited to see it. Also fearful for what's going to happen because good Lord. But no, overall, it was a good trailer.
This answered a lot of questions I had. And it raised a couple more. And we did see the cameo of one very, very cult-followed villain in the MCU whose stock is rising, and to see who it is and how they're going to be bringing that person into the MCU, this is going to be something fun, but that's where the fun stops, because I have a feeling about this movie that the MCU is really going to be changing quite heavily in Phase 5, and a lot of our favorites are not going to make it to the end of Phase 5.
Probably not.
That would be the guess, but I'm excited for what I saw, nevertheless. That being said, in 3, 2, 1, talk to me, Pat.
This trailer, like I said, trailer was fun. Scott Lang's going to get his fucking ass kicked, and it's going to be something to see, but I'm excited for it.
We had MODOK.
Yeah, we did.
We had freaking MODOK.
Was not expecting that.
I heard rumors, and I know that Corey Stoll, who played Yellow Jacket in the original Ant-Man movie, was rumored to be playing this role. But we had not seen anything. We had not heard anything. And if you've never seen MODOK in the comics or the video game, he's a huge head, small arms, small legs.
He appeared in one of the animated shows in the 90s. I forget which one, though. Might have been Iron Man.
You're going to see a ton of toys come out for MODOK.
Yeah.
And like I said, he has a cult following. Like, there's certain characters in Marvel that people resonate to. And, like, I'm not making fun of this. This is just, like, it's a weird thing because MODOK has always been a joke villain. I mean, the mechanized organism designed only for killing, who has been connected with AIM, the Advanced Ideas Mechanics, who have always been a thorn in Iron Man's side and countless others throughout the MCU. He has just been the genius trapped inside this deformed body, I guess is the nicest way to put it.
Yeah.
Because he has a monster head, a laser coming out of the top of it, and small arms and small legs. Like, it's built for Disney. And just the fact we're getting this is just another thing that, like, we live in this world where MODOK is going to be a franchise player.
Yeah, reading some fun facts courtesy of the folks over at IGN. He made his first appearance in Tales of Suspense, issue number 93 in 1967. Was a guinea pig for AIM, and then its leader. You mentioned what the name stands for. He's super intelligent, telepathic, and has a deadly mental beam. And then he uses a life support unit called the Doomsday Chair.
Yeah. Like, he's crazy. Like, it's just, but he's a product of that time, though. And this is when Marvel is just really getting zany, if I can use that word.
Hey, it's the 60s.
Yeah, which, I mean, but that's fun, though. But the fact, like, he's translated over, and more recently, he had the animated show on Hulu.
With Patton Oswalt, yeah.
Yeah, which, vastly underrated for what it was. You had to take it very much with a grain of salt, though. Like it's not for everybody. Featured in the MCU's Avengers video game.
Right.
That, Square Enix came out with. So, love it or hate it.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, he was in there. So, you have to just kind of process that and go, okay, you're now really pushing him along with this franchise. What's going to happen from here? Anybody's guess. But just the fact we had him on screen, that was a big deal. But this really set the tone for Jonathan Majors. Like, I think if anything from this trailer, we know that they want to really establish him as a real threat.
Well, because that's the thing with overarching villains, and movie villains, is like you always want the next one to be bigger than the last one. When you have Thanos, who was such a thorn in the side for, 10 movies, whatever it was, even if he wasn't there, he was kind of lurking in the shadows. So you got Thanos, who, like, almost conquered the universe and gathered the Infinity Stones and almost and well, not almost, he did wipe out half of all life in the universe. So, like, that's a freaking tall receipt to beat. So you really got to bring your A game and really come up with something crazy to top that.
Yeah, and Kang is a villain of that level. They're not going to do Doctor Doom right away. Like, that is the only one that is eventually coming to the MCU.
Oh, yeah, that's coming.
And I'm not doubting that he will be the last one standing at the end of Secret Wars.
Probably.
When that happens.
Probably. As the saying goes, oh, Lord, he coming.
Oh, yeah. There is no doubt in my mind that he will eventually be the one to take out Kang, probably. Because we do know that there's going to be Avengers back-to-back movies coming out, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars.
Right.
As it's slated right now, barring anything changing between now and obviously when those films are slated to start filming. But Kang is a villain that definitely reaches across the MCU. I'm not sure how much he's had to deal with the X-Men. I'm sure that there's been a time or two they've crossed.
He's in the however many years Marvel's been around, I'm sure he's shown up.
Right, but he's more synonymous with the Avengers, in my opinion. Avengers Forever is a comic series that I think really kind of showcased him to the point. So that said, this trailer, like just reiterating, I think that they really deep dived into how much of a threat he is, how he comes across, and Majors just really played into the cold demeanor of him.
Now that I think about it too, I want to say he made an appearance in one of the more recent Avengers cartoon series. I'll have to look it up, because I know it's not. I know it's one of the more recent ones, but I know they faced off against him in one of the more recent ones too.
Yeah, he has been slowly creeping back in to the MCU, the comics, the cartoons, and more of a featured role in the comics universe. I know there's been a couple series that have came out about him as well. So they definitely want to start pushing him, and this is a way to win over the pop culture audience, which we've talked about at length too. There's a comics audience and there's a pop culture audience. You have to win over the pop culture audience if you're a movie studio. The MCU has done a great job about doing this because Thanos is now one of the most legendary villains of all time and is really broken out to be the big bad of the MCU, even though originally he was not. It is Dr. Doom. Albeit, though, Doom is slowly going to come back and take that throne by the time it's all said and done.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question in my mind about it. Like I said, Doom's always been number one in my book. But for a lot of the pop culture audience, it's Thanos because they have not had that Dr. Doom exposure just yet. Kang is going to mark his territory, though, on that list. He's going to be up in that top 5 by the time this is all said and done. And for where this trailer is going to be going with it, I think they did a masterful job about that because they really showed how ruthless he can get. There's one scene that we'll talk about that I think really put the exclamation point on it. And I think that there's a lot of stuff to be excited about for the fans moving on.
So I looked it up. Kang showed up in one of the 2 seasons, because the computer's moving a little slow here, for the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It was a show that started in 2010, did 2 seasons, which if you're curious you want to watch, they are on Disney+.
Okay. That was not a bad show, too, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
For Marvel stuff, because you know we always have sided with DC in the animation argument. That was not a bad one for Marvel.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I might check it out.
But for live action, this is where we jump into the trailer. And it kind of just opens up with, a little reminiscence, if you will, so to speak, with Kang talking and narrating about Scott Lang, and you see his future, and him and Wasp are basically celebrities now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because he's living a good life. I mean, the opening shot we see of the trailer is Scott Lang walking down the street. He's got a smile. Somebody sees him. He gives a little, eyebrow raise and a little nod like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
And then he's on the red carpet with his wife.
Yeah. So obviously things have turned very well. But then you see a quick shot of Scott in costume free falling and crashing down on a planet. Then they do show a shot of his cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Cassie, but it's his young version of Cassie.
Missing her 2 front teeth.
Yeah, his young daughter is on screen. So like I say, it's the young version, though, because obviously she's aged now. And you see Kang is like, you have a daughter. And he's really driving that point home. And then they do show a shot of Cassie, who is aged now at this point, coming out of a jail cell.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a little backstory that we'll find out.
It's like a local police holding cell.
Yeah.
We want to stress she's not in prison.
Right.
She's been arrested or held for some reason, and she's and she's being released.
Right. But all this is going on while Kang is still narrating.
Yeah.
And he's saying, you've lost a lot of time like me.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really driving home the point of, like, you've lost all this time with your daughter.
Yeah. And we want to stress the picture on the phone is the daughter from the first two movies.
Right.
It's not the one you saw at the during Avengers Endgame, but the one from the first 2 movies, just to kind of like paint a picture of like how far back we're talking.
Yeah. So they're definitely showing up how much time he has lost with his daughter. So it's a great ploy for Kang to get him on board to whatever he's trying to pull off.
Oh, yeah.
Then they show a shot of Pym's studios, or the laboratory, where you see that Cassie has been working on the quantum satellite to reach out and connect to people in the quantum world.
It's the one they kind of teased at and hinted at with the first trailer.
Yep. And then you see Janet Van Dyne, who's played by Michelle Pfeiffer, has been, kind of screaming like,
what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, what have you done? You don't know what you're doing. And then you see the shot that you've seen in the first trailer, too, where Cassie is reaching out for Scott, loses grip, and then goes right into the quantum realm, and Scott goes right behind her.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, not a lot new there in that aspect, but they're really just trying to say, with Kang, who's narrating, like, we can help each other with this.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, the driving point is something is involving his daughter that is going to make Scott Lang jump to help Kang.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see that Scott has that meeting with Kang in costume, and Kang basically does that whole promise to him. He's like, I can give you the one thing you want.
What's that?
Time. And we do see him come out of costume, too. So I do like the special effects they're doing with that, too.
Yeah.
And it almost gives that like weird endearing, like I'm really trying to help you. I'm really trying to do good for you.
Yeah.
And it's not really working that well for him. So it's kind of funny how they're really trying to sell that. But it's good for, like I say, to win over a new audience with a character like this. Then we see a shot of what I'm assuming is Chronolopolis.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
my guess.
Kang's headquarters outside of time. So we're assuming a lot of this movie is going to be taking place there.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Which would make a lot of sense. And at this point too, you're seeing that Janet Van Dyne is just warning everybody in around of like what Kang can do. Like he can rewrite existence, he can change the world or change timelines. So obviously there has been a backstory between those two.
Well, she clearly knows who he is because we saw it in the first trailer. I don't think they outright said it, but they kind of like implied they were talking about him. And she's like, yeah, his name has been whispered throughout the quantum realm.
Yeah.
That, like, everybody who lives in the quantum realm knows who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and given how long Scott was in there for a cup of tea and probably didn't go to the certain parts of the quantum realm where Kang would be, so he wouldn't have heard the name.
Yeah.
But for how long Hope was.
Janet,
thank you. Janet was in the quantum realm. She knows who the hell he is.
Exactly. So it's kind of an interesting play how they're doing this. But we do see at one point, though, during this narration, a shot of Scott Lang splitting into two. And I think this is going to be very important as well, because we are going to be dealing with variants throughout this movie.
TVA is going to have some work to do.
Oh, absolutely. And this is going to tie into that whole multiverse of madness vibe, where you're going to see a lot of versions of different characters.
Can we, if we end up going through different timelines, kind of like we did with Multiverse of Madness, can I make a request? Hi, Marvel, if you're listening, can I make a request? Can we see a version, because I don't think they'll do it in movies, but can we see a version of like A-Day, or like where the villains win?
That would be something.
Because I don't think they'll do it for a full movie, but just kind of like, hey, Easter egg for the fans who know the storylines and all that.
You know what would be interesting if they did it for What If?
Oh, yeah.
What if they can do a lot more flexibility with that? I understand it's not live action.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing it, though.
Yeah.
Like, see some of the alternate timelines pop up.
But I'm thinking if Kang's really going to illustrate, oh, here's what I can do. I'm going to show you all these different timelines and what I can do. Let me show you a timeline where if you don't listen to me, you're going to lose. Like, then that's not what actually happens, but... he's just going to paint it that way.
Right.
And Scott's going to sit there and go, oh, my God, you're right. I have to listen to you.
I love that idea. And I do know for a fact people from Marvel do listen. Hi, how you doing? So that being said, that's a great idea to do. I'd love to see that on screen. If not, like I said, worse than What If.
Yeah.
But then we get another shot of Janet who is talking to the group and just saying, you can't trust him no matter what. And this is where Scott's, wanting to reconnect with his daughter chimes in, because he's like, I don't care who this guy is, he can help us.
Well, I had all of like a cup of tea with her, just because he had the split custody in the first one, and then he had the second one where he was under house arrest, because of what happened with Civil War, and so he really didn't get to have a lot of time with her then he got sucked into the quantum realm for 5 years, which fun fact I realized the other day. Did you realize we're now in the year that Avengers Endgame takes place? I realized that the other day.
That's creepy.
I know. But so he spent 5 years in the quantum realm away with her. So he's had literally like a cup of tea with her for the amount of time they've been able to spend together. So I get why he's upset about not having a lot of time.
Oh, absolutely. And especially if he can recapture those years. I mean, who wouldn't do that in his place?
Every parent would say they want to recapture those memories.
Absolutely.
Even if they got to experience them.
Yeah. So he understands, and he just says, I lost so much, and he's willing to do it. And then they show young Cassie going up and meeting Scott and giving him a hug at a birthday party. Yeah. So obviously they're tying that back in. Like, this is the whole motivation for him helping.
He even tells Cassie or somebody, because he says it while he's talking modern Cassie.
Yeah.
He says he can give us a second chance.
Yeah.
So I can't help but wonder if there's some sort of, given the fact we saw earlier in the trailer, Cassie was in a holding cell. Mm-hmm. So clearly she's on the wrong side of the law in certain instances. But I can't help but wonder if Scott, this is a part of Scott feeling some guilt and like, listen, if I was there, this wouldn't have happened. I could have taught you. I could have done this.
Sure.
I could have done that.
Well, you have to think about it. Like, he has always tried doing the right thing, and it just doesn't work out for him. Like, he's a reluctant hero in that sense, but you can't help but root for him. Like,
he wants to do the right thing, but just it's not always the right thing to do with what he ends up doing.
Exactly. I mean, this is something you could almost say Peter Parker has the same kind of problems with.
Yeah.
So that's why I say he makes that connection. And like I said, with Rudd's charisma, this is what carries over. And this is why people really get behind this character. So then we go to another shot of Scott, who's shrinking down into what appears to be a quantum realm area. And it's kind of like a little confusing what they're doing. But it's something I'm noticing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe lately. They're using a lot of the same kind of shots.
Yeah.
Going with the cinematography, that you do see this wide out shot of him just falling into this massive
subatomic
alien
universe.
Yeah, and then they go to another one where you saw like I call it the Doctor Strange shot.
Yeah,
where you see how it's kind of moving in like a 360, almost like a slow motion.
Yeah.
So you see him Scott with Hank Pym
Yep.
and Hope and Janet Van Dyne, and they're like riding through this like alien wasteland. So to speak.
Like the start of the shot, they're going top to bottom, but then the camera slowly starts to rotate in a counterclockwise way, so that eventually it's then on a level field.
Yeah, and then Kang is still narrating. He's like, "Let me make this easy for you, and you'll bring me what I need, and I'll give you what you want." Like, and it's kind of like an interesting ploy as he's doing, but he says like, "I'll give you what you want, but I will also end your life and everything that you know about it."
Yeah.
So he goes back to the ruthlessness of him being a conqueror.
Give me what I want, or I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, that's who he is. He's ruthless. He's not a nice person.
Zero fucks given.
Exactly. But that's what they really need to establish with this character is like he's going to sway Scott Lang
for a bit.
It's almost like making a deal with the devil, so to speak. And that's the problem that Scott's going to do. But he's good. But he has the one shot to reclaim everything he wants.
That's it. Mephisto and Quantumania confirmed.
Oh, that'd be incredible. I would love to see the cameo of was it Sacha Baron Cohen, who's rumored to be playing, rumored to be playing him. But this is where we also see a shot of Scott almost kind of saying the final goodbyes to the family as well, too. So whatever the mission is, which they still haven't said, there is a lot of speculation, though, and I want to stress this. Speculation, this ties into the bonus scene of Shang-Chi. Because nobody's been talking about it lately.
I've seen some videos floating around.
Yeah, there's been some videos floating around and pointing out that there is a connection of some sort to the 10 rings.
Yeah, so I saw the video. I saw some videos, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Because the one video I saw is drawing on the bonus scene from Shang-Chi, how there was a beacon. When what was it, Wong and I think it was also Hulk was there, or Bruce Banner and then Captain Marvel were analyzing the 10 rings, and there was that beacon going off, and they're like, "Where is it going to?" And they're like, "We have no idea."
Yeah, I think that's a smart play to tie it back to it. I don't know what it has to do with the 10 rings per se, if it even does.
Well, the thing I've heard with the 10 rings is that the 10 ring, like there's a similar design. I don't know if it's an exact 1-to-1, but the video I saw was that like the rings that were used by Shang-Chi in the end of that movie resemble the rings you see here in Chronolopolis. So it could just be an aesthetic thing. It could just be it's a similar design. Let's just use it. We why waste the money and the assets if we've already got them in house? Maybe.
And plus, Marvel likes tying that stuff together. Remember, they're the place that touts it's all connected.
This is true.
So from there, we get another shot of Chronolopolis and forces moving, so to speak. So
an army is getting raised.
Yes, an army's getting raised. It goes to a shot that we've seen before of basically Scott chasing after Cassie, who's he's disappearing in time, and this kind of plays into the Ant-Man variants that we see.
Yeah, because there's like 1,000 of them.
There's thousands of them, and then this ties back into something that we saw rumors of early on, because I think it was at San Diego Comic-Con, not this past year, but the year prior. Remember there was that, or maybe it was this year. Regardless, there was the point that there was a clip that came out that was rumored that Jonathan Majors' character said to Scott Lang, "Oh, haven't I killed you before?"
It rings a bell.
Yeah, I want to say it was something that leaked out of San Diego Comic-Con. And that said, that I think that ties into the variants that I think in some timeline
that could be.
He did kill him.
That could be.
So this is also where Kang is narrating again, and he's just basically telling Scott, "You don't want to watch this." And you see,
he says, "You may not want her to watch this."
Yeah. So obviously something is going on where I think he tried doing a double cross, and didn't go through. And Scott's like, "We had a deal," and then you're just seeing Kang go completely off on Scott. And in this shot, though, we do see one of the quick glimpses of MODOK in his armor.
Yeah.
And there is one that was floating around online. I haven't really been able to pinpoint it.
It's got to be a real quick blink and you miss it in the trailer.
Right, but it's been making the rounds online, and that is the one and only Corey Saul who's playing Yellow Jacket, who is now MODOK. So you can argue that after Ant-Man 1, somehow, some way, Yellow Jacket made it into the Quantumverse, or this is an alternate timeline, and he is now MODOK. It works, though.
My guess is that it is the Yellow Jacket from the 616 Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just he made it into the quantum realm, and then he met up with Kang, and Kang started messing around with him, and one led to the other.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's going to work, too.
Yeah.
And for Ant-Man, MODOK is a perfect villain.
Oh, it is, and it makes sense to do it in this instance. I know in the comics he was created by AIM in this, but you're not gonna do that. Be like, oh yeah, AIM created this guy, sent him in the quantum realm, and then lost him. Like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but the problem that you have now is there's so many moving parts in the MCU. Like, it's tough to give everybody their time, so you kind of have to skip over some things. And this would be one case that you would, because at the end of the day, you get MODOK. So I get that point. But this is going to be an interesting point to see him now. And obviously with the hatred he has for Scott Lang, it's going to play for some great scenes. And we do see the MODOK armor.
Yeah, which looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, it looks cool. Like I say, if you wanted to see how he looks, that's how he is. That's MODOK to the letter. Like, you're going to be laughing in the movie theaters if you have not seen MODOK before. I guarantee you, you're going to be like, what the heck is this? But by the time you're done, you're going to be like, I'm going to go check out some comics. But from there, we get a lot more action, and basically Jonathan Majors' Kang is unloading on Scott Lang.
Yeah, he even says, you thought you could win, and so Scott's crawling backwards on the ground, and then Kang almost does like a curb stomp. He does he just raises one foot in the air, stomps down on the mask, and it's real quick and you miss it, but he does crack one of the lenses.
I love this shot.
On Scott's helmet. This
is such a cool shot in the movie. So you're seeing like if you were Scott and seeing that foot come down, crashing into the face. It's a very cool shot. And then you see, obviously, the helmet is smashed.
Yeah.
So it's alluding to Scott doesn't survive. But he does drop the line. He's like, I don't have to win, but we just both have to lose. And then you see the multiverse of Ant-Man's as he gets swallowed whole. And then the final shot is Kang unleashing his energy beams. And that's how the trailer wraps up. I thought they did a brilliant job with this. February 17th can't come quick enough. Pad, final thoughts on this?
Looks great. Super excited to see it. I think it's still going to have the fun that you're used to with an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, but it's going to be a little toned down a little bit. It's not necessarily going to be hey, let's recap everything that happened, since the last movie, since the last time you saw Ant-Man. Like, that might be there, but it's going to be a lot more serious. It's going to be obviously a lot more dark, and it's going to be very interesting to see, because this is the start to Phase 5, and this is the next big bad with Kang.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I thought the trailer came out really good. I'm more excited about this movie than I was, because now you have a sense of direction, like what's going on. You don't exactly know what Scott Lang's going for, but the more you start thinking with Shang-Chi in that bonus scene, you can start putting together some dots. And I think that if they are going that he has to go steal the 10 rings out of another timeline, like, I mean, how crazy would it be if we saw a Shang-Chi cameo in this?
I would imagine.
I mean, I think they're going to tease something coming out of this. I mean, obviously the bonus scene is going to set up for something to come eventually. The only thing I think is kind of off limits right now is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but that's perfectly fine. That's going to be its own thing as well. But I thought for what they did, it worked. They needed to establish Jonathan Majors as a true, scary bad guy. Did that completely. They introduced MODOK, which they made him very interesting. Even though the little cameos we saw, it's enough that you can win over the pop culture audience trying to figure out who it is. And then that'll be the only, I don't want to say comic relief in this movie, but I think it's going to work on that factor, though.
Yeah.
And you do see a possible ending for Scott Lang, because if they really want to hit the ground running with Kang being a devastating force, killing an Avenger is going to do that.
That'll get some attention on you.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not going to be him, I would say a safe bet is he kills Hank Pym.
Could be.
That could be something as well, too. But by the time we leave Quantumania, there's going to be a lot of answers for some questions we have. And more raised, because where is he going to go from here? That's going to be the next phase, because we do know that the Marvels is due out later this year, allegedly. And we do know some MCU shows are coming out as well, Secret Invasion, which I don't think it'll have anything to do with.
Probably not.
But if the movie slate holds up as it is, that's probably where we're going to see maybe a teaser come through for him next?
So for movies, this is according to the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 5 Wikipedia page. For movies, you've got Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then the Marvels releasing this year. And then for television series, also for films in Phase 5, you've got Captain America New World Order in 2024, Thunderbolts in 2024, and then Blade in 2024. And then for television shows, you've got What If Season 2, which may or may not tie in. I mean, we didn't think the first season would, and then it kind of did once it came down to it. Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, Ironheart, Echo, Agatha Coven of Chaos, and Daredevil Born Again. Now, whether those are all coming out this year, probably not, but we'll see.
No, safest bet.
Here we go.
Loki Season 2.
Oh, here we go. In the expanded upon television series, there's a table here. So What If Season 2 is, none of these have confirmed release dates, but What If Season 2 is rumored to be early 2023. Secret Invasion is also rumored to be early 2023. Loki is supposedly going to be mid-2023. Ironheart's might be looking like late 2023, along with Echo and Agatha Coven of Chaos.
Echo was pushed back to Daredevil time period, so I think
that'd be early 2024.
Yeah, I think that one's off the table as of right now. I'm going to say this: if I have to do locks and leaps about this, I think the lock is obviously Loki. Mm-hmm. We will see Kang show up there.
There might be a mention of him in Secret Invasion.
There will be
depending on what happens with the movie. There won't be like you won't see him, but like you'll hear about it.
I agree too. I think you'll hear something
because especially if like Paul Rudd dies, or even Evangeline Lilly or something like that, or even Hank Pym, like something like that dies, you'll hear Fury mention it.
Yeah. I mean, that would be something kind of crazy.
Because if you kill, someone like a Hank Pym or an Avenger, that'll reach the ears of Nick Fury. And he'll be like, hey, keep an eye on this. Something killed an Avenger.
What if, and I hope they don't do this, but then again, part of me just wants to see the internet go crazy for a sec. What if he does kill Scott Lang, and Scott Lang turns out to be a Skrull? And that leads right into Secret Invasion.
Too convoluted.
Yeah. I know. I kind of think that next level about that kind of stuff. But I think the Kang, like I said, is going to be a lock for Loki. Leap would be Secret Invasion. But I think at the latest, though, the Marvels. As long as that comes out on time, I think that he'll be in a cameo at the end. Like, he'll be picking up something that he wants to go get, whether it's Miss Marvel's wristbands for more weapons.
Could be.
Either way, though, trailer did its job. More excited about this. Tickets are yet to go on sale. Rumor has it next week as we record. So definitely make sure you're watching at your local theaters to see where to go to get tickets for that. And then definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the latest trailer of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania? Are you excited for this movie? Are you not? What about MODOK? Let's talk about that, shall we? We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to The Capsule Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. You can also check out our website, www.thecaptionlife.com, to find out where you can listen to us, a list of all of our episodes, and where you can find us on social media under the username @CaptionLife. You'll get a new episode from us every week, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it's been a little quiet with new debuts on TV right now. We do know Last of Us is coming out this week for HBO.
Yes.
Hunters Season 2 is coming out on Amazon Prime Video, I believe, this weekend too. But there's been one show that did come out, made a splash amongst the Star Wars community. I know Pat has been dying to talk about this show.
Oh my God, yes.
So I decided to take the plunge. I've watched a couple episodes, and that show is Star Wars The Bad Batch on Disney+. So this is something that is a little new to me, so I'm going to let Pat explain what the show is all about.
So The Bad Batch takes place after the events of Revenge of the Sith, but before Rogue One and A New Hope. So it's kind of in that like 20-year time period where things are kind of like a little bad for the universe at large. And the main characters of this are this group of clones who have the nickname The Bad Batch because They look like, the other clones, but there's something a little different with each one of them. They're kind of genetically modified a little bit, like giving them one has enhanced strength, another one's really smart. You got one who's a good leader, one who's a good sniper shot. And they're kind of like the elite of the elite. They're like, hey, these are the guys that, like, if you need something odd or bizarre taken care of, they're the guys you get called in. They got their introduction in the first 4 episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars. So if you want to get into the show, watch those first 4 episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars, where it focuses almost exclusively, from what I can remember, around those characters. So it really is an introduction to these characters. And then you can watch those 4 episodes, and you should watch all of Clone Wars. But if you just want to focus on Bad Batch, watch those 4 episodes, and then you can watch season 1 of Bad Batch. It's 16 episodes, which seems like a lot, but these are animated episodes, so they're less than a half hour. It won't take you very long to get through. Season 1 focuses on this group of characters who have rescued a unaltered female clone named Omega, who is it's from the Jango Fett DNA line, but they're unaltered, nothing special about her, but they just clearly the Empire and the Kaminoans have some interest in her, but given everything that goes down with Order 66, our group of clones in the Bad Batch don't have the inhibitor chips in, so they kind of escape Order 66. And then most of season 1 is just them trying to escape the Empire. Like, hey, listen, we're not down with this. We don't want to be a part of this. There's even one point I remember from season 1. I forget what episode it is in season 1. Spoiler alert, but it came out 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Where in season 1 you've got all the clones on Kamino, and they're listening to the speech the Emperor gives at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Well, towards the end of Revenge of the Sith, where he's like, "Oh, the attack on my life has left me scarred. A safe galactic empire." Like that whole line where Padme says, "Oh, this is how liberty dies," with thunderous applause. They're watching that speech, and everyone around them who's got the inhibitor chips is like, "Yeah, we love this. This is awesome, yeah." And they're all kind of like, "Oh, say what now?"
Yeah.
So season 1 is them kind of escaping the Empire and running on the Empire. They successfully did so. Although, a lot of the Empire, they think they're dead, but the one in their group, I forget what his name is. I think it's like Longshot or something like that. They've all got kind of like code names. Knows, he's like, "Listen, I know these guys well. They're not dead. But I'm gonna find them." So that leads us into season 2, which had the first 2 episodes drop on January 4th. The 3rd episode is out now. It is amazing. Cannot recommend it enough. It is Dave Filoni does work on this. He's not directing any of the episodes, but he is an executive producer. I have sung the praises of Dave Filoni for years. He is one of, if not the best storytellers in Star Wars, period. Mm-hmm. So I cannot recommend the show enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's Pat's spoiler-free statement about this show, so I'll go into mine, and then we'll do the countdown like we've always done. So this is the first time I really dove into this show. Mm-hmm. Like, I've kind of glared at it a couple times. It's been on the background as I'm doing a lot of reviews and such. I got to admit, I thought this show was pretty solid for the 2 episodes that it came out with. Mm-hmm. It kind of moves at a quick pace, but even for me who jumped in, I'll say relatively cold. Mm-hmm. It was easy enough to pick up.
Yep.
It was easy enough to figure out what they were up to and seeing what they were kind of falling into. But then again, this is something, like you touched upon, this is Dave Filoni written all over it.
Oh, yeah.
Like the minute I'm watching, about 5 minutes in, I'm going, "Oh, this is Filoni." And sure enough, who is behind this right at the end. Mm-hmm. So this made a lot of sense in that aspect. But it's an interesting story to see how this plays out. I mean, obviously we know what is going to happen in a few years. Mm-hmm. So we can appreciate the side story going on. Is this going to be anything groundbreaking to Star Wars? No. But for an animated show, it's very entertaining. It does its job. And it definitely kind of throws a little backstory on a couple characters, especially the item that they were looking for. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely worth a watch if you're looking for something to do early on in 2023. Mm-hmm. And like I say, Pat hit it right on the head. It's very short episodes, so you can buzz right through it if you need to binge watch.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in the next couple months. And obviously, they're planning on going right through March, I believe, with the show.
Yeah, so this season is 16 total episodes, started on January 4th. The final 2 episodes are debuting on March 29th.
Yeah, so they're definitely going to take some time and do this, which is perfectly fine, too, because, you know what? I always say this. If you need content, just go check out a streaming service. You'll find something, especially for Star Wars 2, because obviously everybody is waiting with bated breath for Mandalorian Season 3. So we need something to tide us over. If you're into the Star Wars universe, this is a perfect way to do it. So that said, let's get into that spoiler talk, shall we? In 3, 2, 1. Pad, talk to me.
Like you said, they did really good with the writing in this, and I will admit, I forgot this was coming until there wasn't time to really do a rewatch. So I had not seen season 1 since the episodes aired, so I was going in not as cold as you, but pretty damn cold.
Yeah.
Not remembering all the specifics and everything, but it does start off very quick. You don't really need a whole lot to understand where it's going with season 2. You can almost, if you don't want all the backstory, you can almost jump in with episode 1 of season 2 and go from there and go back and watch the prior stuff just to kind of fill in the details. But the first 2 episodes they debuted, and then you got the third one that came out. All fantastic episodes. I love what they're doing. I love when they go back to old Clone Wars worlds or old sets. So it's like you don't expect to see them anymore when some of the people involved with those areas are gone, and they go back. You're like, oh, we're going here again. That's awesome to see. Fantastic episodes. I can't wait to see where they go, and I'm expecting some big things.
They had me at Count Dooku's finances. The minute we started talking that in the war chest, I'm like, okay,
yeah,
this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because at this point with the story, the Bad Batch is like a group of, I don't want to say bounty hunters, but they're guns for hire.
Yeah, I mean, they almost remind me of the Suicide Squad.
A little bit.
Almost. Like, similarities, not full-blown.
They're doing jobs. They're taking up contracts, I guess you could say. And they get presented with this quote-unquote contract where it's like, hey, we need some money. There's a lot of money. Dooku had a giant war because in case you didn't know, he was the head of the Confederacy, the separatists.
Yeah.
And he had a giant war chest that's conveniently sitting on his planet. And the Bad Batch is kind of reluctant about the whole thing because they're like, well, okay, we could, but that's in the heart of Imperial territory, and we've been doing our best to stay off of Imperial radars. And initially, they're all like, no, we're not gonna do this. No, absolutely not. But then one by one, they kind of get persuaded into it, like, okay, yeah, fine. And so then you got the only one they have left to convince is the leader, whose name is Hunter. They're like, hey, listen, we're all in agreement on this. We want to do this. And he's like, fine, okay, we'll do this.
Well, he understands the gravity of the situation. Being the leader, you have to have that cool head about you. And all they're saying is like, listen, we've got a lot of people looking for us. If we can get this war chest, we're going to be okay. Because we can probably buy our way out of a lot of things. So I can understand the reluctance by Hunter, though, because obviously he's like, we've just been running from the Order. Why do we want to get on their radar? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But the ends justify the means. So he's like, okay, if we're going to go mess with the Order, the Empire, like, okay, we'll take our shot and do this. However, though, like all best played plans, it just goes up in smoke.
Because they get to Sereno is the planet's name. And they kind of land there and they're walking through. And at one point, Omega goes, where's the town? And one of the other clones goes, this is all that's left. And it's been razed to the ground. They're like, this is what happens when the Empire comes through. And it's really showing that brutal side of the Empire that we'll all come to know and some of us will love. When it comes time for A New Hope and the Empire Strikes Back and all that. So they then get towards the castle, mansion, whatever you want to call it. And that's when the monkey wrench gets thrown in, because not only are they in the heart of Imperial territory, well, the Empire's there.
Yeah.
They're aware of it. They know how much is there, roughly. And they're in the process of taking it.
Yeah, so the batch walks right into it. And of course...
And they're like, hey, we're really good. We're really skilled. We can get in there and get out of here without any issues and without being seen.
Yeah.
Famous last words.
Famous last words, because they're like, oh, yeah, we'll do this. And it's like, yep. They're waiting for you. And the fight breaks out, just as much as you would think about, which some of the members get trapped. And not in a place that they want to get trapped.
No, it's in one of the hearts of the cargo transports that's hauling all of the money away. And because they get the one clone who's good at hacking and good at technological stuff. And like, oh, hey, so here, listen, open it up, crack it open. And he's patching himself in and he's working his magic and he's trying to do this. And he's like, bad news, I can't break it open. It's locked from the outside.
Yeah.
So Omega radios to Hunter and goes, hey, so bad news. We can't get out. It's locked from the outside. And he's like, all right, hey, we'll be on our way to save you.
Yeah. So they kind of have to fight their way out of too, because Hunter and I believe it was Wrecker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really strong.
Yeah, are trying to get away from what is the force of the Empire coming after them.
Because eventually they do get eyes on them. And they're like, hey, we know these guys. They're supposed to be dead, but they're not.
Yeah, so it doesn't exactly go where it's expected to. Obviously, the cargo plane crashes, and this kind of just leads to more problems on the way.
Yeah, and I love the writing with this episode because there was the first time I saw it, I thought it was just this throwaway scene, but it ends up playing a part later where Omega is talking with Hunter, and Hunter is quizzing her on shuttle classes and what they hold and this and that. And I'm like, the first time I saw it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then the second time, knowing what happens, I'm like, oh, so when she gets in the cargo ship, this is why she's able to identify what type it is and why the cargo containers in there have thrusters and this and that, because Hunter quizzes her on this stuff. That's a brilliant little throwaway scene they put in there, but actually means something.
Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg they put in.
Yeah.
Because the more you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, he's kind of guiding them about what to do. And is very smart about this because, like I said, when they finally wind up crashing, the team is trying to get back to their ship.
Yep.
And obviously, you don't exactly have a nice, easy path right back. Because then they go into where we're talking now, episode 2. They run into a character that kind of is a little bit of inspiration to them at one point.
Yeah, so this is just kind of one of the local. I don't even know if we ever find out this guy's name. I don't remember, but he's a local to Sereno. He's one of the last ones there, and as they're trying to sneak through the forest to try and reunite with Wrecker and Hunter, he comes upon him and he's like, hey, I don't mean any harm. This is fine. I'll just let you guys go. And they're like, no, because they've got their helmets on and they can see thermal and all that. They're like, hey, no, we know you have I think even the one goes, we know you have a domicile,
Yeah.
And I can detect it on heat radar. You're going to take us there. And he goes, fine. Okay.
Yeah. So during this trip, they find out a little bit more about
what it could be without being soldiers and living free.
Yeah. So they get basically the blueprint of what they want and the whole deal you're going after for this Doku war chest, which I thought was very smart because you think about it in the land of Star Wars and outside of the Jedi, it's a little rough. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you've got Luke and his family, his aunt and uncle, literally harvesting water out of the air.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a glamorous job.
And everybody else is doing mercenary work. Like, this is how lawless this place is.
About the only good planet you can have it on is maybe Naboo.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like an Italian, Mediterranean, tropics. Not too bad. But you think about it, okay, what about Coruscant? You delve too deep, you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
You're on Tatooine, you're going to freaking burn to death. Hoth, you're going to freeze your ass off. Endor, well, enough said.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good places out there.
And you understand why the Empire does what they do, because they're like, everything here is ruined. We got to go fix this. So you can understand why they're trying to take over the universe.
The Empire's also got a little bit of a black hole getting built in the galaxy right about now. Something called a Death Star. Costs a little bit of money.
They need a little backup plan just in case they want to do some house cleaning. It's okay. It's perfectly fine.
This is true.
We chalked that up to what, Pad? Reasons. Nevertheless, we see, though, Omega is very impacted by this conversation because now you have the idea and the means to get that life you always wanted. Much in the same vein, in kind of a weird parallel in segments to Ant-Man.
Yeah.
That you now have an opportunity to improve your status.
Yeah.
And you don't have to keep fighting because if you get enough money in the lawless world of, well, I should say worlds of Star Wars, you can pretty much buy your way out of a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a weird concept, but they can wind up doing this. But as Omega takes off, Echo and Tech are going after her. And of course, you run into more of the Imperial Army.
Yeah. because it's never just a few. It's a whole army.
Yeah, you never run it. Yeah, like I say, I can't stress. Like, watching the scene, this is where it gets me perplexed as I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
They know as soldiers, if you're moving anywhere in enemy territory, especially for a highly sought-after item such as the money of Doku, you know the Empire is sending everybody and anybody to go get it.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, why would you think it would be like, okay...
Oh, they won't miss just one case missing. No, they're going to miss it, and they're going to look for it.
Yeah, like, they watch everything that goes on, except blueprints for the Death Star, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's true.
But this is where I was kind of struggling to watch. I'm like, okay. Not that I didn't like it, but it's just kind of like...
Well, I think the thing of it is I think the rest of them... outside of Omega, they were ready to just cut and leave.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, listen, this ain't worth it. There's just way too much going on. The odds are stacked way too high against us. But Omega had it in her head. They're like, no, we need to do this. You need the money. You need your freedom. And she kind of went off noble cause and noble reasons, but noble reasons aren't always the right reasons.
No, especially not in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I say, there's very few. Even the Jedis are kind of questionable. Let's be honest.
Because if I remember right, outside of Hunter and Wrecker, the rest of them were already like, all right, let's reunite with our buddies and just get out of here.
Yeah.
And then Omega disappeared, and they're like, well, fuck, now we can't leave. We got to find her.
Yeah. So it really turns into this big cat and mouse game, so to speak, because everybody's trying to chase something here. But during this, like I say, they kind of run into the search parties. Everybody has to really fight their way out of this. Meanwhile, Hunter and Wrecker are trying to catch up with them. They finally do.
Yep.
So that's the cool thing about this is the band gets back together, so to speak. So with this going on too, there's kind of a weird ending though. At least I thought so. And I guess maybe I have to get this idea out of my head, though.
Okay.
When we see somebody get killed in the Star Wars universe, it throws me for a loop because it's on Disney. And I got to get this out of my head because, like, especially with animation, like, seeing how this ended, it really threw me, like, for a curveball. Like, okay, like, we're going this place.
Well, yeah, because it has a nice ending. In that, the local dude from Sereno, who's like the last one person living there, can't get a hold of all the information in the history of his people. Because at one point he says to the clones, listen, there was more to this world before, Count Dooku showed up and was doing everything he did. Like, we had a history, we had a life and everything else, and it's all in this thing, and I can't get access to it. And they eventually get into it. They're like, hey, here you go. He's like, oh my God, thank you so much. So it does end on this happy note of like, hey, he's got the information back. But then we get to the end where it's Vice Admiral Rampart is his name, who goes, oh, I'm here on Imperial business. I saw your report about the what happened on Sereno, and I'm here to amend a few statements. And the clone goes, well, amend what statements? Oh, you didn't run into anybody. Clone Force 99. Clone Force 99 is dead. And he goes, no, we saw them. I got visual confirmation on 2 of them. I'm not going to lie and fudge a report, an official Imperial report. And it basically, the Vice Admiral looks at him and goes, well, that's a shame, and shoots and kills him.
Yeah. Which was like out of nowhere, like, okay. But then again, this goes into the Empire playbook. Like I say, they get very ruthless when they need to, and they're all very cutthroat against each other to cover their own asses. It's a weird thing, but it's the Empire way.
Yeah.
So it still works though for the show, and that's how it ends for the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So I have to say, like, I was impressed with the show.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not saying this is my favorite thing in the world, but I'm gonna go back and watch it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, especially for episode 3. A little teaser because that one dropped today. A little clone commander named Cody shows up. You might know him from Revenge of the Sith. Was teamed up with Obi-Wan for parts of about half of Revenge of the Sith. Cody shows up.
If he doesn't come out with adrenaline in my soul, something Cody Rhodes, I don't want it. But I tell you what, I'm going to definitely watch this episode. And I'm thinking we're going to do a little back watch, too, as well.
Yeah, like I said, if you want to get into this series, watch the first 4 episodes of Season 7 of The Clone Wars. That was kind of their backdoor pilot for this show. And then you can go and watch Season 1.
Yeah, I just got to watch how much I'm loading up to because, like I said, Last of Us is coming out, which we'll be talking about next week on the show. And then Hunters is coming out, too, on Amazon Prime. I want to say that's coming out Friday, I think. Regardless of that, though, the Bad Batch is worth the time to check out. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. Have you been watching the Bad Batch? Let's talk about this, because I know we've had a couple of listeners of the show tweet in about it and say, like, you should really check this out. What's everybody feeling about season 2? First 2 episodes are out. Third one just dropped today. What's the vibe? Are you digging the show? Are you not? What do you think is going to be happening this season? Let's talk about it, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of watching the same old awesome movies? Are B-movies more your style? Then the folks over at They Called This a Movie have you covered. Join us every Thursday as we review the worst of the worst in sci-fi, action, comedy, and more. We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Podbean at theycalledthisamovie.podbean.com. They Called This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships, one terrible movie at a time.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and there's been some CW/DC Comics news that broke out. It's kind of 2 stories connected, but not. But we figure we kind of merge them into one segment and kind of break it down and give us our thoughts.
Yeah, so the news is that Greg Berlanti, the man behind the Arrowverse, so Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Superman and Lois, Batwoman, Black Lightning, I might be forgetting a few, could be wrong, signed a new overall deal with Warner Brothers Television Group. And reading from an article on Deadline.com, it reads, quote, Warner Brothers is keeping their most prolific TV producer of the last decade in the fold. Greg Berlanti has closed a massive new 4-year exclusive overall deal for his Berlanti Productions to remain at the studio for its television operations into the year 2027. No financial terms are being disclosed, but sources indicate that the pact is structured differently than Berlanti's most recent blockbuster overall deal with Warner Brothers TV Group, whose value had been estimated to be more than $300 million, and as much as $400 million over 6 years. The agreement involved the studio buying out Berlanti's back end on his shows, while the new deal is more of a joint venture with a big potential upside for Berlanti, sources said. In success, based on the number of series that the new deal yields and their profitability, it could be the biggest TV deal ever for Warner Brothers. It marks the first re-up for a top TV creative talent since the Discovery merger, with the company's new leadership sending a signal that, even with the cost-cutting measures, including a slew of write-offs that have made headlines over the past 9 months, they are willing to step up in order to keep the biggest names on their talent roster. Quote, Greg is a huge talent, and the impact of his prolific and powerful storytelling on Warner Brothers and audiences and on our culture is just wow, said David Zaslav, CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. He began his career with us, and we are incredibly fortunate that he will continue to build and grow our TV studio into the future. Close quote. Under the terms of the deal, Berlanti Productions, in which Berlanti is partnered with longtime collaborator Sarah Schroeder, will continue to develop new television programming to be produced by divisions of Warner Brothers TV Group for all platforms, including WBD's HBO Max, external streaming services, cable, and the broadcast networks. Like the last time Berlanti re-upped with Warner Brothers TV Group, the new pact came together quickly with about 2 years left on his previous deal as Berlanti's new agents at CAA worked through the holidays, and Channing Dungey closed the deal for the studio, sources said. Close quote.
So this big deal for WBD.
Yeah.
I have to get used to saying that. It's been a while. But Berlanti staying there, that's a huge move on their part.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting time period for him and whatever is going to be going on with CW.
Mm-hmm.
And does this lead to a doorway to more on HBO Max?
I think it certainly leads to more on HBO Max. I think this also means, and we'll get to this in a little bit, it means more that there will be more Superman and Lois past season 3. Because while we know we're getting a season 3, they haven't said anything about season 4. But the fact that he just re-upped for however much money it ends up being tells me we're going to get more than just the 3 seasons of Superman and Lois on the CW.
Yeah, which I'm super excited about. And obviously you take a look at his track record that he's touched upon. Like, he is the guy that is behind the modern DC universe on the CW. Mm-hmm. And the shows that have come out have been very successful.
Yeah.
And really, I would say, provided a good blueprint to the MCU shows in this vein, that introducing characters that were not household names to start with, to a pop culture audience. And obviously, Arrow, comic fans knew, but if you say Green Arrow to most pop culture fans,
Right.
nobody really was jumping at it. And especially the depiction that Stephen Amell did, which was trying to fit into the Christopher Nolan Batman universe. And it was a very darker Green Arrow than we're used to. And having that be such a hit, that opened up the doorway for arguably the biggest hit out of the bunch, and that was The Flash, who we had all known, legendary DC Comics superhero, already had a little run, pun intended, on CBS many years ago. And introducing Grant Gustin and the world of Barry Allen to a modern audience and really won people over. Ratings hit all over the place. In fact, Grant Gustin should have been in the movies. Just saying that, and we'll probably be saying that well after the latest Flash movie comes out. Just going to put that out there. But from there, Legends of Tomorrow, which was probably one of the bigger gambles at the time.
Yeah, I would say so.
To come out, because you took a lot of relative unknown characters in the DC universe and really made them very prominent for a season, and you're having a rotating cast. And it definitely worked to connect an audience, and you're growing your own universe. So to show that you can do this, especially with not household names for the most part, a couple here and there, sure. But to do this and be as successful as he was with this, that's just such a feather in the cap. And then obviously as the Berlanti universe went on with Supergirl and Black Lightning and Batwoman and most of the shows that come out, and especially right now up to Superman and Lois, which has been such a monster hit too. You have to say, for Warner Brothers, this is such a smart move, and especially if you're doing the transition phase, not only with the dawn of DC in comics and in movies, but now in TV as well.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got hit after hit after hit. I mean, I'm looking at his IMDb page. I did not realize he was a co-executive producer on Dawson's Creek back in the day.
Yeah.
Which was wild. I mean, he did work on, he was a producer on, and this is just his producer work. He was a producer on the reboot of, or remake of Eli Stone, which was on TV in 2008, 2009. Producer for Green Lantern, which, say what you will about the movie.
Sure.
Not good, but he was a producer on it. We mentioned he did work on Arrow and all the other CW Arrowverse DC shows. He did work on Constantine, City of Demons, the movie. He did work on God Friended Me, Blind Spot. Let's see, Prodigal Son. He was a producer on Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie, Titans. Let's see, Batwoman, The Flight Attendant. That's the one with Kaylee Cuoco on HBO Max.
Not bad, gotta admit.
He did work on Riverdale, All American Homecoming. Kung Fu, Stargirl, Doom Patrol, Titans.
Yeah, he's had his fingers on the pulse of the comics universe and even some pop culture stuff too. Like I say, Flight Attendant, I heard a lot of mixed reactions. I thought it was really good, to be honest with you. Very surprising of how good it was, because like I said, I kind of set the bar low because I really wasn't sure what the show was going to turn out to be. Really worth the time watching if you haven't got a chance to do that. But like you touched upon, everything he's done, he's had like almost a perfect record with. Some shows took a little while to get to. I mean, like we say, we were very fair and honest with Titans.
Yeah.
Titans took a while to get to, but this past season has been very good. I got to admit that. Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
I sing the praises of that all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, just how good that was. And to live in this world where we have a Doom Patrol show, which is one of the best on TV, let alone superhero TV.
Well, and especially some of his non-superhero stuff. I mean, Dawson's Creek, one of the most legendary shows in TV history. But then also some of the other CW stuff, which might not be that well known, but it was successful enough that they ran for multiple seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing too. When you can run for multiple seasons, that's why we kind of say like Dawson's Creek is kind of legendary.
Yeah.
For that time period. That time period, if you were really seeing that show, you couldn't escape it.
I would say the easiest comparison, and it's not like a 1-to-1, but just in terms of like how popular it is, the easiest thing I can compare it to is This Is Us. Yeah. Just like literally at the time, everyone was watching Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. Like it's kind of a weird thing, but especially, a young audience. Yeah. Everybody's locked and loaded on that. So like I say, when somebody's like, well, it's not really legendary, it's like, oh, the impact it made on pop culture makes it.
It's not legendary for certain audiences now.
Right.
But if you were around back then, it's legendary.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And now to have him locked up long-term is a big move.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of a wide open playbook of where he's going to next. I think that in the short term, Superman and Lois, I think we can breathe a lot easier about.
Debuting March 14th.
Yes, which has got to be one of the most anticipated debuts of the 2023 season.
So, yeah, and I know they're filming because there's some set photos and behind-the-scenes photos from the cast getting posted to their various social medias.
Yeah.
So they're filming that right now.
And there's a lot of rumors of like who we're going to see this season.
I do know, because I saw some photos, we're going to get a slightly reworked suit.
Yes.
Nothing crazy, just slightly reworked.
Right.
And I like it. I got to say, I've seen it. I'll show you after. I like it.
Yeah, like I say, everything they've done with that show reminds you of why you love Superman. Like and Superman's due for such a big year. Like comic-wise, can't stress this enough. February is going to be a monster month for Superman. Definitely you can hit me up on a hashtag ODPHpod. I will talk some ears off about how excited I am for the new books coming out. But nevertheless, you open up the playbook, and at the same time, he'll be closing a playbook too, because as this deal is getting signed, The Flash will be announcing be starting to run its final season.
The debuts on February 8th.
Yes, and there has been a lot of names coming back for this final season. Pat, you got the list in front of you?
Yeah, so this is according to the Wikipedia page for Season 9 of The Flash. So this, we record, might get updated, might get changed, but as we speak, this is what we know. And this is, I'm just going in the list. It's done in as I read it. So returning, you have Javissa Leslie as Ryan Wilder, a.k.a. Batwoman, and also a mystery character. You've got Nicole Maines as Naya Nal, or Dreamer.
Okay.
Andy Mentis as Hartley Rathaway, a.k.a. Pied Piper. Some dude named David Ramsey as John Diggle in Spartan.
Ooh.
Some dude, never heard of him. I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize. Kynan Lonsdale as Wally West, a.k.a. Kid Flash.
Okay.
Sendhil Ramathri as Ramsey Rosso, a.k.a. Bloodwork. And then some dude named Stephen Amell as Oliver Queen.
Yeah, that was the big one I knew about.
Never heard of the guy.
Yeah, to see Stephen Amell come back as Oliver Queen. Not sure what it's going to be. It's probably going to be a flashback, I would assume.
I would imagine so, although I did like the one quote where it was like, why is Stephen Amell coming back as Oliver Queen? Who cares? How is he coming back as Oliver Queen? Who cares?
No, this is a perfect send-off for this show because let's face it, if it wasn't for Arrow being as successful as it was, there would be no Flash.
Right. Well, and the other thing, too, is this is the end. Once this show's over, this is the end of the Arrowverse because as was confirmed or announced or however you want to spin it at the end of season 2 of Superman and Lois, spoiler alert, the Superman and Lois television series does not take place in the same universe as the Arrowverse.
Right.
It's in a whole separate universe.
Yeah, so it's going to end everything that we have now become so accustomed to over the years. To think about what he's done, and now with the names returning, there's one they haven't announced, and I will say this right now, I'm going to be super pissed if he's not back. Wentworth Miller.
Oh, you would have to imagine.
He's got to come
Even
back.
for an episode.
Captain Cold, I thought was the biggest travesty they did on the show.
Yeah, he was real good.
He was amazing, and for him being arguably Flash's #1 villain, to only be there for a short amount of time, I understand the actor went on to do different stuff. So
I will say, I don't remember what, but I remember him leaving because he had something else lined up.
Wasn't it the new Prison Break remake or something?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was something like that. So I understand why he left. So I'm not mad about that. But when you talk about the Flash, you have to end with the big villains. And I don't know what we're expecting with the final run that is going to be taking place in February. I am hoping they pull a swerve on everybody and it's Captain Cold.
That'd be awesome.
I'm just fearing that it's going to be, more Reverse Flash for reasons, and we're going to do the same thing. But with the names they're bringing back, you have to be excited about it.
Yeah,
just as a final send off for the Berlanti universe that we have all grown up with over the past years.
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people have jumped ship off it, and
sure.
The Flash, we've been saying for a while, should run its final lap.
Right.
Like it's gone past its course. It's nothing against the team there. It's just you get to such a stage where you have such a vast rogues gallery, and in my opinion, they didn't utilize it enough. And you're almost kind of like repeating some steps.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of like at that point, it's like okay, now is a good time to go.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be there too long that nobody wants to care when you go.
Well, it's also crazy to think of how long this
Just my opinion.
this universe has started, because I remember season 1 of Arrow airing, and I was in college at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know you were trying to convince me to watch it, but I was like, no, because I had, you know, because it was in 2011, 2010, somewhere in there, maybe 2012.
That'd be 2012.
2012, and I had just come off of watching 10 years of Smallville, and you know, in Smallville, for those of you who don't know, did their own version of Green Arrow and the Flash. You know, I don't remember the actor who played the Flash, but Justin Hartley, who was on This Is Us now, was the Smallville version of Green Arrow. So like, I had just come off of 10 seasons of Smallville. I really wasn't looking to get into it. Plus, at the time, J.J. Abrams had this new show out called Revolution, which I was like, oh, it's J.J. Abrams, I got to watch this. Fizzled out after 2 seasons, but, you know, just to think that, like, I started watching it when I was in college, and now here I am, you know, all these years later. It's just wild to think of how long it's been going, and just like, because you don't think about it when you're watching the seasons.
Sure.
You're going through, you're watching the motions, you watch the season premiere, the season finale, and you wait along. But then you get to the end and you think back to where you were when this show and this universe started. It's crazy to think of.
Absolutely. 2012 is when it debuted.
Okay.
I knew it was then because where I was living at the time.
Right.
So that said, if it wasn't for Arrow being such a success, and obviously Arrow season 2 is arguably the greatest season of the DC CW universe.
Yeah.
No, we can debate this all day, but
I'll agree with you.
Very few people will go against that one. The Flash definitely debuted right behind, and season 1 is right behind Arrow season 2 in the best of all time in the CW DC universe, because you really captured the essence of why that character works. And I think they've kind of gone away from it a little bit. And I think, but you know, it's not a fault of anybody really. It's just you kind of get in that situation on TV where it's tough to do a show like that for as long as they've done it.
Well, and especially I think it's kind of like they had a formula, and the formula worked for them, but the formula for what we liked with those shows changed, because you think back to when that started. There was nothing else like it on TV. So
right.
Smallville had just finished, but that was kind of like its own formula. It was a little different. You know, but then you think of this was kind of like the only game in town for superhero television shows. Mm-hmm. You know, eventually Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would come around, and then so would the Marvel Netflix universe, and then the Marvel Disney Plus universe, you know, and that kind of like changed things, and like our tastes changed and whatnot. Like, don't get me wrong, your tastes change over the years, but you can still go back to some of those dishes you liked when you were younger and still enjoy them.
Yeah.
You know, and the same can be said for the Arrowverse and the CW shows. You know, but I don't necessarily think it's like, oh, I think they did get stale a little bit, but I don't think it's necessarily like the one thing from them. I think it's just, hey, our tastes changed.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair statement. I don't dispute that at all. I think just for me, it's reading enough Flash comics over the years.
Sure.
I just felt like there was more they could have done, but I will say they did try adapting. It's just some storylines just didn't connect.
I think if they got the budget like Superman and Lois gets, they'd have been phenomenal.
They probably would have been. But like I say...
you can tell there's a budget difference between those two shows.
Absolutely. You can't even question that. But I just feel like where we could have had more Captain Cold and more Abracadabra and more classic Flash villains, I think we just went to speedster levels way too much.
Mm-hmm.
But that's near the end of the season, so I can't really fault him too much. But for this season coming up, the expectations are now high again.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, this is going to be it. The final episode is going to be one that if you've been watching the CW for many years, you're going to be excited to see how this all plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to see just one last run off into the sunset for Barry Allen. So I'm going to be excited for it. But with Berlanti now going on to do different things with, you know, HBO Max, which we have to presume.
No, you would figure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Superman Lois is still going to be on the CW. We're not talking about Gotham Knights.
I was optimistic for it, and then I saw the trailer and went, "Ooh, this is not for me."
I'm gonna try watching the first episode, and I'll give my honest opinion. I might have to do it behind Patreon, though. To be honest with you,
God help you.
Things I do for the show, folks. But nevertheless, though, we have to say congratulations to Greg Berlanti, and then the future is wide open with the Flash closing his doors. Pat, final thoughts.
Super excited for the final season of Flash. I think it's going to be an absolute home run. I think they're going to do like they did for the final season of Arrow and just say, hey, leave it all out on the line. You know, don't hold anything back. And then, listen, Superman and Lois is one of my favorite shows on television. The fact we're getting season 3, and I would assume more than just season 3 with Berlanti re-upping, give it to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So a lot of things to be excited about for the DC Universe Final Farewell on the CW and the rebirth, so to speak. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about Greg Berlanti's deal with Warner Brothers Discovery? Got to be excited about it. And what is your favorite show that he's done? I'm going to pose that to you, the ODPH Society. Hit us up and let us know. And then final thoughts about The Flash, the final season. A lot of finality there, if you will. What's your thoughts about that heading into February? Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Time is going. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the Shane and I Show. Or actually, it's not the Shane and I Show. It's a promo.
It's a promo for the Shane and I Show, the show about nothing that makes you think of something.
And we are available wherever you listen to podcasts. Spotify, Apple, what else? Good Pods.
Yeah, but we got like 5.
We got like
4,
5 seconds 3, to fit it. Well, we're going to go a little over.
1.
So, hey.
Listen to the show.
Yeah, you messed that up.
You fucked it up.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got one thing to talk about, and it's one thing I am super excited for because it was announced by the folks over at Netflix last week that Wednesday has been renewed for season 2. It is
nice.
One of, if not the most popular shows on Netflix, depending on who you talk to. I think statistically it is now the most watched show in Netflix history until Stranger Things comes back.
Yeah, I was going to say mark the time there.
Yeah, reading from an article on Netflix.com says, quote, Wednesday Addams, played by Jenna Ortega, has been put through the ringer. She's been stalked by a bloodthirsty monster. Her raven gown was ruined by red paint. The normies couldn't even spring for real blood. And she's had to brave the scariest threat of all, other teens. But things are looking up for Nevermore Academy's most popular goth. Wednesday has been officially renewed for season 2. Quote, we can't wait to dive headfirst into another season and explore the kooky, spooky world of Nevermore. Wednesday Season 1 co-showrunners Miles Millar and Alfred Goff exclusively tell ta-dum. We just need to make sure Wednesday hasn't emptied the pool first, close quote. The renewal comes with a new video announcement promising more torture for Wednesday in Season 2. Naturally, the amateur detective and mystery writer couldn't have it any other way. Quote, Wednesday sticks to her guns and she's not out to please anybody, Ortega tells ta-dum. Which, as someone who used to be an immense popular people pleaser, I really respect, close quote. So super excited for this. If you haven't seen season 1 of Wednesday on Netflix, it is freaking fantastic. Tim Burton's got a heavy hand in it. He directs a number of the episodes. It's fantastic watch. It leaves you guessing until the very end. A lot of popular memes coming out of this, obviously, with the dance and everything else. Cannot recommend the show enough. My only wish for season 2, because we didn't see him in season 1, Cousin Ed.
Yeah, that would be dope. I have to catch up on this show.
It's so good.
I'll be honest. Yeah, I just get tied up with my other things. But no, I've heard nothing but raves about this show. So this is awesome to see it's coming back for season 2 because a lot of people are very skeptical about this. Let's not forget.
I'll admit, I've seen the Addams Family. You know, I saw the Addams Family cartoon show when I was a kid in the 90s. Love the cartoon show. Saw the movies, you know, from Tim Burton, you know, and the Addams Family and then Addams Family Values, like once on Netflix because I was like, oh hey, it's these. I've seen the show, but I've never seen, you know, and I saw some episodes of the old black and white television show on TV Land when I was a kid. You know, so I saw those movies like once, but like this show came out and I was like, I might get to it, I might not. Like it's not high on the radar. And then my girlfriend Liz was like, hey, I want to watch Netflix, or I want to watch Wednesday. I was like, oh, that's the Addams Family one with like focusing on Wednesday Addams. I'm like, okay, we'll watch this. I was hooked in one episode. I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, no, it's on the radar to watch. I just have not had time to do it. But I'm definitely excited to check that out. One quick entertainment note, and then it's comic time because, man, there's a lot at the store this week. Got to put that out there. If you're not heading down your local comic shops this week, I don't know what to tell you. This is an insane week of books. Amazing picks. We'll get to that in just 1 second because one of my favorite shows announced that it is going into the final season starting in May. So on May 14th, Fear the Walking Dead has announced that it will be starting its final season, season 8. AMC made the big announcement, and what can you say about this show that hasn't already been said? I think over the past few years, this has surpassed the actual flagship show. They do a lot of interesting story ideas that you haven't seen on the flagship show. So we do have to say, keep that in mind. because they've had everything from a nuclear warhead go off in the middle of the zombie apocalypse to all types of insane horror feels that have just had crazy character after crazy character after Pad's favorite character from Smallville, John Glover.
John Glover.
Leading the Doomsday cult there. It's just been an insane ride. And obviously, since they added Lenny James as Morgan from the flagship show, I feel they really got their feet and really started running with the ball. Because when it first came out, I'll be honest, hated the show. Mm-hmm. Did not like it at all.
So you and I, before the show, we started this podcast, we would on our own watch. You made it through what? Season 1?
Season 1 I was out.
Season 1 I was out.
Season 2 I gave 2 episodes and I was done.
Season 2 I quit partway through because I was kind of interested and they were doing some stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm all right with this. But then the one that kind of ticked me off was they were doing this thing in between commercials where it was like a 2-minute little snippet of like something happening on a plane. They teased it. I forget what it was called, but it was like, oh, there's this sequence taking place on a plane and then one of these characters is going to join the show. And I'm like, that's different. I've never seen anything like that. I like that idea. And then the person that they brought on the show ended up being a zombie and was killed 2 minutes into their quote-unquote debut on the show. And I was like, all right, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, I understand they were trying to do some very interesting things. And in some of the side episodes, I guess I would say.
Sure.
Like, excuse me. Those little brief ones were very interesting. Shout out to our guy, Nick. I know he's a writer for some of those, so definitely shout out to him. But I think for what this show did is, like I say, when they got Lenny James there and him and Morgan really got everybody else to step their game up as far as their characters really started developing. Victor Strand by Coleman Domingo, who's played him, for all these years, just when they started having that chemistry together. And that was like really driving the show. Excuse me, as I'm losing my voice here. They were really driving each other and really brought the drama levels up. So then when they really came back strong and started to do the anthology style of each character, and then they finally tied everything together, I think that has been some of the best Walking Dead stuff we've seen in quite some time. I really stand by that statement. This past season was a little wild because, like I said, you're living in a nuclear wasteland.
So you're living in a second apocalypse when the first apocalypse is still going on.
Yeah, but it worked though, for the most part. Not every episode was a home run, but few times it is for any show. But I am excited to see them finally end this, and because it was kind of leading up to that way. After the season finale last season, I was like, they can only probably go maybe 2 more at best. But the fact they're going to divide it up, so it's only going to be like how they've been doing the shows pretty much now, a few episodes, and they're going to come back and do another set to end off things. Not going to be the never-ending party that is the Walking Dead finale. So that should just say. Well, the never-ending party is actually a good book. Yeah. Never-ending story, I meant to go say.
Right.
But nevertheless, Fear the Walking Dead is ending in May. Definitely be talking about that on the show when that comes up. Like I said, Pad, this is an insane week. See, I can't even talk right now with the amount of quality books coming out at the comic shops this week. So recommendations, DC has a really crazy week coming out. Lazarus Planet Alpha is out, so obviously that's a big storyline that's going on there. One that's close to your heart, Batman, The Adventures Continue.
Yeah.
So season 3 is happening, so that's going to be a book that I know Pat will probably be talking about. Maybe you can hit him up on Twitter, let him know if you're reading that as well. Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo, that has been a wild story, to say the least. And you have to think about everything they have going on right now at DC, going right into the dawn of DC. So there's been like a couple things that people have been kind of waiting to see how it all plays out. But this is still a time to jump in if you are a DC Comics fan, because even when they start doing the dawn, I fear, not that I fear, I feel this is going to be like Rebirth. That this is going to be back to basics, why you love these heroes, why you hate these villains, and it's all going to come together very nicely. And like I said, the Superman stuff coming out the gate next month, super excited to talk about that. Over on the Marvel side of things, Dark Web is still going strong, so obviously if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man number 17, you're going to have that in your pull list. Ghost Rider number 10 is out, and if you talk to our guy Brian Wayne from Cheers to Comics, you know he's got a lot to say about that. And I also have to give a quick plug to Brian, too, because the Cheersies Awards were this past week. Massive success all around. A lot of creators chimed in, have been sharing it. The awards have really taken off on fires. So next year, I don't know what we're going to wind up doing for it, but the video is out on YouTube right now. It's going to be on podcast form. I believe on Cheers to Comics relatively soon, if it's not already. But I'm trying to see if we can get a copy here at the ODPH, because I definitely want to plug it, because it was definitely an amazing time. And like I say, Ghost Rider came up quite often by Marvel. So if you're not reading that, you definitely need to go check that out. Image Comics, crazy week too as well. Nemesis Reloaded. So if you haven't read that book by Mark Millar, you definitely want to go check it out. And then let's get into some Parlay Points blog recommendations. Kicking off for me, let's keep it Image Comics. Black Cloak #1. So this book is one that I wasn't expecting to be as amazing as it was. Like, I thought it was going to be interesting, but sometimes when you hear hype, you don't want to get too excited, and it doesn't deliver. Holy crap. Did this book ever deliver? Kelly Thompson, Meredith McLaren are the team behind this. This is like a sci-fi murder mystery going on. It's a big, oversized first issue. It's well worth the price. I can't stress enough. This had me locked in from the opening to the ending. Blown away by everything I was seeing going on here. A lot of twists and turns. Didn't give enough away that I was like, all right, I've already solved everything. But it's one that I'm like, okay, this book is fantastic. Also, Image Comics, Dead Lucky #5. You know I'm going to talk some Dead Lucky.
Yes, you are.
Melissa Flores, French Carlo Magno, absolutely are setting up for one heck of a season one, the first arc finale, I should say. It kind of feels like season 1 because they have announced that after issue 6, they're taking a small break and then they're coming back. So that said, they have built up for one hell of a issue 6 finale, if you will, for the first arc. Shift, who you've seen in Radiant Black, is in this issue. And all I'm going to say, I'm putting this karma out in the world. I know that people from the Dead Lucky team listen to the show. I need a Shift and BB team up / Suicide Squad-esque team book just for like 4 issues. The two of them absolutely stole the show for me there because they're back and forth. BB was not taking any nonsense from Shift. And like I say, they're dynamic together, just back and forth banter. Awesome, on point. Whole issue is amazing. Probably my favorite one of the series thus far, Pat. And you know how much I love that book.
You do, a lot.
Yeah, so I rave about it all the time, and I definitely say, if you haven't gotten into the Dead Lucky, go out and go get it and find out when it's coming out in trade paperback if you need to do it that way too. I'm not mad at you about it because you know what? You need to go check this book out. They're doing some damn good work over there. So shout out to everybody that's behind that. Massiveverse set up for a big 2023. You want to get on board now. What else can we say about that? Comixology Originals. Book of Evil #2. Scott Snyder. Jacques. Pad, when have I ever yelled out at an ending of a book, what did you do? Did you have to go at a character like this?
Probably every so often.
I did at the end of this book. Now, I'm not doing any spoilers because this book is terrifying. The story of what is going on with Homer and his friends trying to find his brother Poe and this absolutely insane new normal is absolutely terrifying. And what happens here is absolutely insane because I'm not going to go in spoiler mode here, but I'm just going to put it this way. I read the end of this, and there was a final image drawn by Jacques. And I immediately yelled out, I'm like, Scott, Jacques, why did we have to do this to him? After all the kid has been through, we do this. And I mean, the series is not over. But I'm just saying, I had that much of an emotional impact on this. You're going to have one too if you read this book. And I highly recommend it. Comixology Originals, well worth the price of admission alone. You need to get into it. If you haven't gotten into it, I scream about this book online all the time, and rightfully so, because I think it's fucking fantastic. So that is what I'm picking from them. And then to round out, Boom Studios had a triple threat this week that is one you need in your comic collections ASAP. Multi-Cheersy winner, Grimm returns. So Grimm number 7. Stephanie Phillips, Flaviano. Absolutely impressive issue. The second arc is just absolutely crazy. Pat, I would show you images, but I know you don't do horror.
Nope.
And you would not like some of the images I would show you here because the story is really ramping up steam and going in a really wild direction. And I will just say this. I'll just show you the nice cover by Dan Panozin.
Ooh.
Yes, this is just the
That's
alternative
nice.
cover. Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, he does great work. Canary, another amazing book on Comixology Originals. But that is not out just yet. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about that one, but in the meantime, you need to get Grimm in your system because Grimm is just awesome. Next up, Something is Killing the Children 28. Obviously, one of the best books consistently, time in and time out. James Tynan, Werther Dell'Urta, and the team over there, just absolutely amazing work, top to bottom. Cutter has been the threat that Erica Slaughter has not been ready for. And I don't think she's ever going to be ready because this issue gets wild in a hurry as Cutter closes in on her goal of taking out Erica. And especially with everything going on in that little small town in New Mexico, the drama has just amped up in tenfold. And just like I said, the final moments of this book going to absolutely blow you away. And like I said, this whole series has just been amazing top to bottom. So if you're not reading that, you definitely need to start picking it up. Like, you should go back to volume 1 because it's well worth the deep dive into it. And like I said, the current story arc, absolutely killing it. And then last but certainly not least, Specs number 3, David Booher, Chris Sheehan. The throwback horror book is just ramping up steam going into the final issue. Another intense read, another one that I am absolutely blown away by this. I'm fully expecting this in my karma putting out to the world. This is going to wind up on Netflix. This is going to wind up somewhere.
Maybe.
They need to make this story. It's awesome. It's wild. The no spoilers, obviously. I don't give those out on here. You find out a lot about the secret behind the glasses. And all I'm going to say is I was not expecting what I saw. And I went, holy shit. See, when you get me to swear after I'm reading a book, you know you've done your job. And this is what they've done since day one. This book has been awesome. It's been impressive. And like I say, if you're looking for a great horror comic, this is up the alley. I definitely give it a high recommendation. A lot of good stuff at the comic shops this week. So as we like to end this edition of the ODPH, always saying, make sure to go out and support your local comic shops wherever you're at. Go support the medium. It's a great one to be, and be positive, and go support your fellow independent comic podcasts because everybody's putting in a lot of great work. Try and give great recommendations and stuff to go get because we love talking comics here at the ODPH, and we know a lot of friends do too, and that's why we have a lot of discussions online. So how you find out about that? Simple. Swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in on all social media accounts. We talk comics. We talk pro wrestling. We talk movies, TV, sports. A lot of stuff going on this week too, Pat.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, I would say so. I mean, obviously the sports show. Oh, there's been a lot in the land of pro wrestling that we're going to be talking about next week. And let's just say this. For all the clickbait that's out there, to quote our great friend Rich from 3FN, we're taking some receipts.
Longer than CBS.
Yes. So definitely make sure to join in the conversation for that. And for anything and everything that is the ODPH. Simple. ODPHpodcast.com. That's all we got for this week. So for the one and only Padawanche.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no